Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Man Up Online. I am here tonight to do the next in a series of testimony videos, and I have the awesome privilege of getting to do a testimony interview of my good friend Richard Obosu, who has had a rough, crazy, wild year to say the least, but God brought him through it, and we're going to talk about that tonight, where he's been, what he's gone through, and where he is today. I know it's going to really hit a lot of you right in the chest and right in the heart, and I'm excited for that. So without further ado, why don't we go ahead and jump in? Again, my name is Jared Boland. I'll be kind of leading the interview, but hopefully this will focus on him and the video will automatically switch to him so you can get the most out of it tonight as well. So, diving right in, Richard, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, where are you from, and I won't drop any hints. Tell us, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, everybody, my name is Richard Obosu. I was born and raised in Ghana, West Africa. My job is I'm an IT guy. I'm a tech. Some people would say geek or something. I'm a system administrator, system engineer. And I started my journey like way back when I wanted to travel to Istanbul. And like initially, I didn't even know where I wanted to travel. So I just prayed to God help me travel. I want to go experience the world. And I put this on God's heart, and then fair enough, he delivered. And then I traveled to Istanbul. That's where I started doing a business. God blessed me with a little bit of financial that I started doing my own business. And I lived there for a while, for 3 years, before I moved to the United States.
So tell us a little bit, obviously I know your story. Tell us a little bit about what in the world brought you to the U.S. from Ghana and Istanbul on top of that. How did you find your way here?
How to save love and marriage. Well, I pray to God because everything I do, I grew up, my grandma, I grew up in a Christian family. My grandma taught me everything I know. And everything I do, my grandma said, you pray first, you let God lead you, and he will take you wherever you want to be if you be humbled. So I pray to God, I've come to this age that I'm looking for somebody to spend my life with. And I prayed to God, and I was online. And then that was when God gave me my wife. And then we met. She came to my country. We met, we talked, she met my family and everything. And then things started from there. God helped me, got my visa in Istanbul, and I came here 2018.
Yeah, you guys have quite the story, for what it's worth. Like, that was the Cliff Notes version. I remember just even hearing how your relationship was coming about, and it's got to be a wild story. I assume it's a wild story even in your country, to meet somebody from another part of the world online, and all of the risk that comes with it, and just unknowns. Definitely for us in Central Illinois, like. I remember the day that Sherry told us that she was dating somebody online, and it wasn't her first relationship online, so we just naturally assume it's somebody else from at least the ballpark area. And she said Ghana, and we just both looked at each other like, what do you mean you're dating somebody from Africa? Like, how's that happen? So it's a wild ride, but you guys meeting each other always felt like a God thing, from my perspective. You let her family and friends, for that matter, grill you and make sure that you were legit. And even just watching you talk about the fact that she came to see you and that you wound up here. Tell me a little bit, because I mean, that's not a given. Like, people don't just get to do that per se. and you guys put a couple of roadblocks in the way. And I feel like God really blessed your relationship to start with and really worked things out for you to actually get here and start this life together.
Yeah. So, the funny thing is when she even came to visit me, my friends, my mentor, my family, like, you got somebody from thousands upon thousands miles away to come to Ghana to see you. Well, if this is not God, I don't know what it is, because people just don't get a border flight and come to some African continent and to come see you or something like that. And I was like, yeah, well, I pray to God, and this is the answer God gave me. And like, honestly, ever since I met her, like all the process, everything we went through, it all went successful, like went smoothly coming here. Like, yeah, it took a little bit of time, but that's how the process works. But I went to interview for my visa, and it was just 3 minute interview. And I was there that I saw people were getting like, taking hours to do interview. And I went into the interview. The lady asked me 3 questions. She was like, "You are granted. You're free to go. You receive your visa in 7 days, 7 business days." I was like, whoa. And like, the funny part is, like, there was this group that I was for, it's called Visa Journey, and people were talking about how rude and how, like, some people are in the embassy, how hard it is to, like, when you go and everything. And I just went on my knees and pray to God, don't let me meet this person they're talking about. Don't let me go through that. And fair enough, I didn't go through any of those. I just took a 3-minute interview. Like, I just came out, and then I called. She was even sleeping, and I called, and she was like, "It's done." I was like, "Yeah, it's done." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't get a visa. I was just joking." And she was like, "No, you did get it. Stop joking." So yeah, like, my journey of coming here, meeting her and everything, honestly was successful. To get here, like, when I was coming to port of entry, like, people were telling me how you can, like, they can delay you for an hour. It's like, I got to her and I was in and out like 10 minutes, and she thought I would be there for hours, so she was even late. She was supposed to pick me, and she was even late because she thought I would spend hours over there. And I pray to God, I don't want any of those obstacles, any of those delay and everything. And I didn't go through any of that. So my journey to here and meeting her was successful.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you literally just like showed up in my mother-in-law's kitchen one day. I said, yeah, I remember. And yeah, to your point, like, really, God was just like flinging doors open left and right just to make that work out, and easily clear through like your guys' wedding and everything. Like, it was smooth sailing more or less for a big chunk of like the beginning of your guys' story. But obviously that didn't stick. We're here tonight to talk about the fact you have a testimony, and for most people that testimony is because there's a rocky part before it. So let's talk about, share with us what major struggles that you have been facing within this last, I think we did the math, about 10 months or so.
Yeah.
Tell us about the hard times that you and trials that you faced.
So, like I said in the beginning, I got here 2018. We got married. You were in it, and I met a lot of Sherry's friends and all that. And I would say my wife. I met her, some of her friends, and all her family. Our families I haven't met before, and all of that, and everything was successful. And we got to 2019. That's when everything started to go like way, I don't know. Like, we started having issues. We started having financially, like, we found out we filed for our adjustment of status, which is permanent stay in the US. We filed that in December. And then we got a letter, like, they have accepted it and we have to go to interview. And they gave us an interview date. And then before we got the letter, we found out we are pregnant. And I was so excited. But doing that, I'm not working. So I was like, God, why are we having a baby whilst I don't have any documentation to work to support? But then I was in my mind, I was like, he knows what he's doing. He brought me here. I didn't go through anything like how people describe how hard it was to get here and all that. Even though it took a little bit of time to be with the love of my life, but still God delivered. Like he got me through here. So he knows what he's doing. He's not gonna give me a baby just so I can't be struggling or anything. So then we went for our interview, and then it was a disaster, and I was devastated. I didn't know what to do, and I was crying on my way back from Chicago. I haven't eaten. I didn't know, like, I was so sad and frustrated and depressed and all that. And then we came home, like, we said, well, they said they're gonna review my case because they asked me for stuff that they didn't even say in their letters that I'm supposed to bring. They only told me what I'm supposed to bring, and then I get there and they asked me for something else that they didn't ask me. So they said they will review my case and then get back to me. So I was like, well, you don't know what God is doing. Then I started to remember because I was reading my Bible, and then it came into my mind. God sent Moses to Israel to go get the Egyptian out, but then the same God started making Pharaoh stubborn so he can show the Israelites and then the Egyptians how powerful he is and what he can do. So I was like, well, he's doing the same thing. Because then my mind will go back and be like, oh, God brought me here. So why am I worried? Why am I asking him question? Why did you let this happen? Why didn't I just get my green card to go find a job to do? So we just forget, like we were waiting for them to send us, which took like 3 months. They said 90 days, which is 3 months. So I was waiting for that. And then within like 2 weeks, I think 3 weeks or 2 weeks, if I'm correct, I got my work authorization to get a job. So then I went and got all the necessary things and I started applying for jobs, which you were even sending me like links to jobs that I can apply for, if you remember. Yeah. And so then I started applying for jobs, and then I go for interview and they told me I'm the most qualified person, and then I didn't hear back, and then I went for another interview and they told me I'm overqualified, and the same job later called me back and said they want me. So then I was like, well, God is doing his. Even the funny thing is I went to that job interview with Judah and then Cheryl.
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah.
So I was like, well, and I told her I got a job, and she was like, are you gonna scream? Are you gonna? I was like, well, I don't know what to do, but I'm excited. So I started a job, and then the doctors went, like, I started a job, I was working, and then what's it called? Whilst my wife was pregnant on Labor Day, she was having pains, so we went to the hospital. We were just going for hospital visits to see what's wrong with her. We got there, they said the baby's coming. I'm a first-time dad. I don't know what's going on. I've helped raise my siblings, but I've never been in a delivery room or seen anything what's going on. And I was like, whoa, what? Said the baby's coming. So they were talking, and it was like, oh, he has 25 chance of survival. And I was like, God, please don't take this kid away from me. Even though in the beginning I was like, why would you give me a kid? Now I'm excited in the end that I'm gonna have a kid. So and I was like, God, don't take this kid from me. And then it ended up my wife rather broke and she never had the baby. So they had to transfer it to St. John's, which at that time, I don't know how to drive. And I don't have any family members here to, like, they have to take my wife to the ambulance to take him. And you guys were at the hospital on that very night. You beside me praying with me and encouraging me with all that. And your wife was with my wife and encouraging and praying with her and all that. And then your mother-in-law later gave me a ride to go be with my wife. Well, like they took my wife and I was stuck. There was a car I could drive, but I don't know how to drive, and I'm stuck and I'm stranded. And I was like, what's going on? And I finally got to be with my wife, and we had a doctor came and talked to us and said, this is what we do here. This is what's gonna happen to your son. We're gonna do what we can to keep him inside so he can grow more. But he might, if he comes out anytime or whatever, he's gonna have either brain bleeding, he's gonna have eye problem. Like they list a lot of possibility things that could go wrong, or other things can go wrong. So we're like, okay. And then I remember my wife saying, well, it's God. God is gonna deliver him from whatever you guys are saying. He's gonna be fine. So I was like, yeah, it's God. God is gonna do it. So you might be doctor, maybe you believe in God, maybe you don't, maybe you believe in science and all that, but I believe in the God that I worship, and I know He's gonna deliver my son from whatever things they are talking about. So he came on the 5th of September, around 6, and he was 1 pound, 2 ounces. And he was tiny, and the doctor was like, hey, do you want to take a picture? And I froze because I saw, I was like, whoa, I've seen babies, but he is tiny. And they took him to NICU, and then they told me I can come see him, and I go, and like I was freaking out. I was like, God, whoa, what am I seeing? Why am I seeing this? Why is this baby so tiny? So I was freaking out, and I was praying, God help this kid survive and all that, whilst my wife was going through pains and all that. So I prayed, and then we had to stay in Springfield so we can go see him every day. So we stayed in Springfield, and I kept applying for jobs. And I got the job. Like a job called me back, and I went in, and then like they said they want me and all that, and then I started working. The week I started working, the weekend the doctors wanted to talk to us because he had a brain bleeding, like they said, but in 3 days time they said it's gone. It's nothing, it's gone. But then they said he has this hole in his heart that when babies are born, it's supposed to close after they are born, but it didn't close. And his is still there, and it's messing up with his oxygen and breathing and stuff. So they have to go do surgery, which they do all the time in St. Louis. So the doctors wanted to talk to us about it, and then like finalize a plan or something like that so they can take him to St. Louis. We did that. We talked to the doctor. I start working Monday to Friday. Saturday, we go meet the doctor. We talked about it. We're like, okay, if that's going to help him start breathing fine, you know what's best, and we will pray, and so he will recover and everything. So we come home, and after we meet the doctor, and I get a letter from immigration saying, we asked you for this and that, and you couldn't provide. So your green card is being denied. We give you 30 days to provide that, which is something they never asked me to bring. But they're giving me 30 days, which in that 30 days, I only have 15 days in it because it's in December and there's holidays coming. So I had to make calls to Ghana to get all those documents. And getting all those documents here, it even got stuck in customs. That like I was frustrated, and we had to find lawyers and all that. And we went to Chicago, we met the lawyer, and we had to make like the mail delivery people send the document I got from Ghana to the lawyer's office. So then we did all that, and then the lawyer finalized everything. And after that, I found out that the boss that gave me the job started playing for my son before I even knew her, before I even started looking for a job. So then I felt like I was blaming God, saying, why is he letting me go through the struggles? But at the same time, he's like, there's a dark side to this story, and there's a good side, because I got a job through when my son came. I found out that like the person that gave me the job, is praying for my son. But at the same time, I'm getting a letter that I'm getting deported while my son is staying in NICU. So I was like, why is what's God trying to tell me? What's going on? But then I kept praying. That's all I was doing. Even though with all the struggle with the roller coaster ride, sitting in a NICU and seeing your son like dropping and they have to bag him, which they have to do a CPR, something like that on him to get him back to life. And like it wasn't easy. But then I knew God is gonna deliver him. But at the same time, I was struggling and being like, why are we even going through this thing? Why are we even going through this? But then it always goes back to God is trying to show you how powerful he is if you let him, how the things he can do, the things he can do through us. Like if we let him, if we humble ourselves and let him do his thing and not be like, why? Because I felt like God has abandoned us. I felt like even though he has done a lot of things for me, at this point, I feel like he has abandoned us. And if you remember, I told you, I feel like God is punishing me. And you told me God doesn't punish.
Right, right.
So, like, and when my son went to St. Louis for the surgery, like he's supposed to have a surgery on Friday, they do a heart echo to check if the PD is still there on Wednesday, and it was still there. So they took him to, like, they put him on anesthesia, and then they check for the last time on Friday to see if he still has the PDA. They looked, they said, no, it's really tiny that they can't do a surgery. So, like, with everything was going on, that I was blaming God that he's punishing me and he's making me go through all this stress and all this difficulties and all that. He's still doing good things. He's doing miracles in our life, but we are human beings. Sometimes we don't see the bigger picture. We want our way to be like, we want our way, how we want things to be quick. Like we did this and everything is all, but that's not how God works. He does, he do things in his own terms, and he knows what's best for us.
Yeah, man. Thanks for sharing just this first half of the story. Talk about a series of mountains to climb and deserts to have to walk through. Just even like to recap a little bit, like talking about the fact that you had a really frustrating, and frankly, like it would be easy to downplay it, or even in hindsight be like, yeah, we made it through, no big deal. But like the threat of moving here, you're with the love of your life, you got married, you're starting a family, you've moved in, you're getting ready to start jobs, you have a kid on the way, and to have such a horrible immigration interview. And I remember that day, like it was just devastating to feel like you were really kind of targeted, for lack of better words. And to speak to that, like for those of you watching, like they did everything right. And I don't care what side of the aisle you land on when it comes to immigration stuff, because it's really beside the point. Like even in the legal aspect of immigrating to the United States, like you can have scenarios where somebody does everything right and the system still takes a shot at them. And, Richard was a perfect case of this. He did everything right, did everything by the book. Like he said, like I was in the wedding, he had tons of witnesses, all the paperwork was going as planned, and just had a really, really awful interview, which I remember even that day saying like, that's rough, that's horrible, but keep your head up. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the road for you. So to have to go, like you're just patiently waiting. I don't know if you're patient or not, but you're probably patient. Waiting to hear back through a 3-month period or whatever it was. And to have to get just a hard denial Not like, hey, we need more stuff. Hey, let's meet again. Let's work through this. Here's your caseworker. None of that. Like, you have 30 days or get the heck out kind of letter.
Yeah.
After, right after the preemie birth.
Yeah.
I mean, just nightmare scenario. And I don't know if we talked about the timeline much of what the birth was supposed to be, but this was supposed to be a New Year's Day baby.
Yep.
It came September 5th, you said.
Yep.
Like utter surprise. Utter surprise. I remember because we're diehard Bears fans, Chicago Bears fans. Like that was the opening game against the Packers. There was no baby planned for that day. There was football food and and a game planned for that day. So it just came out of left field, and to have to balance two such serious, not just like events, like you didn't have like a car accident. These were long-term battles you had to face. Everything that came with having a super preemie baby, and life never really being guaranteed, especially from the doctor's perspectives, mixed with these immigration issues. And we were pulling all the strings trying to find like the right attorneys and using our networking and everything else to try and solve the problem that obviously we weren't able to do on our own. But to have to navigate such huge storms for so long together was just a wild ride to even be with you on. And I want to go back and just touch on the fact that you related your story to Moses. And I like this story, or this parallel, because you talk about how essentially like Moses did everything right.
Yep.
He was on God's terms. He was doing God's job and did everything right. And yet it was God making the situation stubborn, which is like a perfect word, right?
Yep.
Stubborn circumstances, so that in a weird way, you can't have success on your own, but God's going to show off. That's what you see in Moses's story, right? Like stubbornness, failure, all so that God could show up and be like, no, let me show you how I can do this. And, obviously we're gearing up for that very scenario with you. So in talking about these just really dark storms and places that you had to walk through, I want to take a moment, share with us what was going through your mind kind of in those darkest hours or darkest moments. Because I remember, like, me and you had some of those darkest places type conversations along the way. And the reason I think it's worth talking about is because there's so many people in this world who are going through what you went through, going through some similar circumstance, or are just mentally where you were at in the worst nights of that storm. What was going through your head, and how can you relate to people who are in that place?
Yeah. So when all this is what's going on, like I said, I felt like God is punishing me, and I feel like He has abandoned me. And then I was headed to a dark, even though He has given me a job, He has delivered my son from having a surgery, which has its own side effects and all that. I still I will have this voice, I will have this things in my head, and it will be like, He's trying to show you how powerful He is. And I'll be like, yep, God is good. He knows what He's doing. And then in a few minutes later, I'll be like, why is He treating me like this? Why is people that doesn't? And I'm a human being. Maybe somebody will be like, why is he a Christian? Why is he judging? I'm a human being. And I'm not gonna be like, oh, I was perfect. I'm not perfect. I was judging, like, why is even druggies having kids they don't even want and they go through for them. Why is people having kids that they don't want and go through? Why? What did we do wrong? And then I was trying to sound like I remember a story in the Bible when two people went to pray, and one of them was telling God he's perfect, and the other one is praying for forgiveness. Which God listen to forgiveness than trying to tell God you are perfect and you are trying to, because he tells you you shouldn't be judging anybody. He's the judge. But then here I'm doing exactly what I'm not supposed to do.
Mm.
And I was going to a dark place, and I'll be talking to you and I'll be talking to my small group. This is where I'm going. I need prayers, I need help. Because watching my son go through, and I'll be like, God, just take me and then leave my son. What did this innocent baby do? And God is not punishing the kid. God didn't do anything to the kid. But in my mind, that's what I feel. And then my mind went to Job, and I was like, how did he do it? Because what Job went through, I don't think anybody on this earth will go through the same thing. Like I went through this, like it's nothing compared to what Job went through. But then I was starting to judge people. I was blaming God for something that he didn't even do, because he doesn't punish. But and then I would be like, okay, Moses, God gave him all the power to go do this, but the same God did that. That is what kept me going through all that. And then there was this two songs that popped out of nowhere in my mind. I heard them one day playing on the radio, and I got stuck with it. It said, God is not done with you. And then when I listened to the words, I was like, yep, he's not done. He brought me here. He's not gonna send me back just to come and marry to a woman that he gave to me, gave me a son, and then be like, hey, I'm sending you back. No, it's not. He doesn't work like that. And then the other one, it says, you haven't even seen it yet, because he sees your problem before you even get the problem. He knows what's going to happen to you before you even, and he already has plans for that. He already have like solution for that. But as we human beings, we don't understand how he works. So like going through all that, I was like, honestly, I was in a dark place. I was struggling. And I kept praying and I kept praying. And it got to, like, the reason why I'm giving this testimony is it got to a point where my wife was like, God doesn't like us. God is punishing her. Maybe I was like, what did you do that you think? Like, I would try to encourage her, saying God doesn't punish, but then I would just turn around and then tell God, why are you punishing me?
Right.
So, and he was like, God is punishing us, and our son is not gonna be home. Maybe even 4, we're not gonna have our son home. Like, she was having issues with everything going on, and I still don't drive. Like, I wasn't driving, and she was my ride to work. And I've even called you, like, if you remember, I've called you in the middle, like early in the morning, to just help me get to work, because her back will go out and she can't move from bed. She can't do anything.
Mm.
And like, we are having all this, with everything going on, we are having all this medical issues within, like, me and my wife, like, we are having these issues with house and all that. And I'll be like, why is God doing this? But then I'll go to the song and I'll go to Moses. That's what kept me going. So then with everything going on, I see my wife crying. I see my wife going through that, and then I'll get emotional and I'll cry, and then I'll get on my knees. I'll pray to God. And then one day I was like, God, if you do these 2 things for me, the reason why I'm doing this testimony, I said, God, if you do these 2 things for me, I will tell the whole world how powerful and how reliable you are. I told God, if you give me my green card without sending me back, without me going for second interview or anything, And if you bring my son home, I will tell the whole world. That's the two things I asked from God. And I would be honest. He didn't just say, "Hey, here it is." I did it. It took a little bit of time, but here we are. That's why I'm trying to tell the world my story, and I'm trying to send this message to whoever is going through something more than what I went through, something that is similar to mine. That if you believe in Him, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Amen, man. Like what you described, even like how in the world you keep your mind focused on God, even in the darkest moments. Because let's be honest, like it's good to be able to admit that when you're dealing with unreal circumstances and God is allowing you to stand in the fire, for instance, being able to say, like, I need to feel the anger that I'm feeling. I need to be frustrated in the way I'm frustrated. If I'm judging people, like, no, that's not okay, but I'm human and it happened. And now I can turn back to a God who loves me and understands that. And, but it takes so much faith. It's Danny Goki, right? The Danny Goki song that you were talking about, and just the idea that like you just haven't seen it yet. Yep. Like God is good, the circumstances are great, you just haven't seen it yet. It feels dark, it feels crummy right now, but the sun is coming or whatever. But it takes so much faith to do that. Like when you're in the storm and everybody's like, it'll be better, you're like, I want to smack you right now. That's not helping. I get it. Yeah. God's good, blah, blah, blah. But like, there's so much faith it takes to live that out and say, right now is awful. Right now sucks. Right now, I never want to go through this again. But you're right. God is greater than my circumstances. God can get me through this. God is in the fire with me. It will be better. I just haven't seen it yet. But like that's easier said than done when you're not sure if you're going to get to stay in the United States.
Yep.
It's easier said than done when the circumstances isn't like, will this fever go away, but will my son live?
Yep.
Period. It's another ball game to have that kind of faith with those circumstances. That's just different.
But like, the funny thing is, and I want everybody to know, even if you are feeling this, it's normal. You're a human being, and I will encourage my wife. I will lecture her how good, how great God is. But then I will be crying in bathroom, saying, God, why? Like, I will do a lot of things, but I will encourage my wife, because my wife will be like, God is punishing us, and I will try my best to make her see that God doesn't do that. But then I will be doing the same thing that I'm trying to tell somebody.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, I feel like in a weird way, not that like I would ever have wanted to wish you to go through this, but I even think about how close me and you got, even though like we were so distant. Like, I was going through my own stuff this year. You were going through your stuff. Just the like cautiousness health-wise with the kid in the NICU. I remember like, it was like on one hand, we weren't seeing each other at all and we didn't talk that often, but when we did, it was so deep. And I think about what you just said, like, you need to be strong for your wife. And at the same time, you need to be able to fall apart somewhere else. And in a weird way, like that's like how me and you became close. And like from a man up perspective, because I preach this with man up, like brotherhood is so important, especially for husbands. Like husbands do have to be the rock at home a lot for their wife and kids. And you don't want to necessarily be the one who's falling apart when they need you to stand strong. So who in the heck do you fall apart with? And ideally, that's like your brothers. That's the guys that you've developed a relationship with, that you can be like, man, like, I know I'm trying to put up a good front, but I am like crying in the bathroom after I tell my wife it's going to be just fine. Like, help me get through this. And so in a weird way, like, our relationship as brothers under God became so much stronger because we kind of walked through that mess together, and you trusted me enough to really put it out there.
Yep. And one thing I wanna, like, with everything, like, I would say this again, we human beings, we always want everything to be like this, like how we see it in the movie Magic Wish, or God grant me this. Like, we don't see, like, even though I needed 2 things from God, my son to come and get my green card, but he was doing a lot of big things around. Like, he got me closer to you guys. He brought a lot of different people to our life, like small group, like different friends who were there for us and all that. I wasn't seeing that. Right. I was focusing on 2 things, my green card. But then the thing is, sometimes we gotta look at what is in front of us and stop thinking about tomorrow or future, because if we rely on him, he already got that covered. It's not gonna be like, hey, I will not lie to you and be like, oh, it's gonna be a magic wish. God is gonna do it. It's gonna be, you gotta work for it. You gotta pray, you gotta believe, you gotta have faith. Yeah. And it will happen.
Yeah. And to your point that you've shared tonight, so often when God is asking you to like walk through that desert, I call it the, like, when you're in a season with God where it's just like, wait, and then boom, he acts in a big way. And like you said, like, we want God to like do things like quick, fast, and in a hurry, like instantly. And the funny thing is, like, a lot of times God does that very thing. He does things instantly because he's God. It doesn't take anything but his words, right? But he will delay when he does the instant thing. Yep. And, I think about, you talked for a minute about the heart surgery that never was. And how, like, it was just this like weight and struggle and stress. And, you literally have a heart surgery on the books. You had to coordinate getting him from Springfield to St. Louis. Yep. It happens, like, he's there, this surgery is happening. They've already done like how many scans, the hole's still there, surgery is going to happen, end of story. And I'll just never forget, like, if there's one moment in your guys' walk that utterly blew my mind, it was praying for you that day. And I'm with my wife on the day of the surgery, and she's praying that the surgery wouldn't be necessary, which is like, let's like stop and be honest about what I'm saying here. Like, there's scans. He's never left the hospital. Doctors are looking at him 24/7. There is a hole in the heart that does not belong there, and there's proof. And yet my wife is saying, God, you're bigger than this. You defy science. You defy, because you created it all. This surgery isn't necessary. And if we didn't get a call shortly after that morning, you guys are like, Hezekiah's in St. Louis, about to go under. Hey, let's do one last check. Let's just, make sure we know what we're doing. Here's the game plan, blah, blah, blah. And there's no hole. And there's no surgery. The doctors are like, all right, take him back. This isn't happening. I about passed out. And to just feel like, because, I'm the logical one. I'm the logistical one, thinking like, God's awesome, and he sure as heck is going to bless these doctors' hands, and they're going to do a sweet job doing what you made them to do. And my wife's like, no, it's going to be bigger than that, because that's how God is. Like, God is proving a point that he's better and bigger than we can imagine, and we can rely on him. Like, those are your words, right? That you can
Yeah.
rely on him. And he showed me up in the biggest way, like, to see God answer even her prayer for you in such an astounding way. And then I think about the domino effect, the snowball of people who witnessed that. And we're like, what do you mean he didn't have surgery? There was a hole in his heart this morning. And now there's not. That doesn't make any sense. You know, all of the doctors and the nurses and everybody watching thinking, there is no medicine, no medical practice, no science that explains what happened. This was God, end of story. You know, that's how he works. And like, that's the beauty and the excitement of what you're about to share. So you already kind of told us what the deal was, but I think how it happened is just as important.
And
So tell us, you made your promise. God, here's the two things. If you do the two things, I'll tell the world. So tell us what happened.
so before I will tell you the story, to add to his surgery thing, he like, I remember, like, your wife saying he's not gonna have this surgery. Like, he's praying so hard. He was even praying so hard. Like, I was already like, he's gonna have surgery. The hole is gonna close and he'll be fine. And they call me, like, Sherry called, my wife calls me at work and be like, he didn't have the surgery. I was like, what's wrong? Why didn't he have the surgery? The kid is struggling to breathe. Why is he? It was like, the hole is little. They can't do anything. And I was like, why? And he was like, well, come see your wife. Like, he was jumping up, up and down at the hospital saying, I knew it. I knew God is going to do it. I knew Jesus is going to do it. And I was like, I remember telling my wife, she is more excited than I am. And she was like, and my wife was like, do you even know what the doctor said? He said the doctor came to my son's room and said, this is power of prayer.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I remember talking to you a while ago after we went to Main Street, something like that, at church. And you telling me about your issue with, what's it called? Daycare. And when all of a sudden things change and you were like, what's the catch? That's how I felt. I was like, my wife told me, I got off the phone and I was sitting there. I was like, God, what's the catch?
Right. Thanks for the awesome gift. I'm really nervous right now.
I was like, why would you make him go over there? And here is the thing. I was like, God is doing his miracle, but I was thinking about financial aspect. Why would you make him go there? Why would you make us spend that money? And then in order to, you could have done this in Springfield. Why would you make him go there? But then I will have, like, it's always, what's funny is whenever I would start going to that side, I would just have this instant thought. He's trying to show you how big it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in order to go to your question, we've been in the NICU for 8 months. My son is still struggling to breathe. We felt like we hired a lawyer. I gave the lawyer the documents that I couldn't find some of them, and I got some of them. I brought everything I could find. We gave it to the lawyer. Lawyer found it emotional and did arguments and all that, and sent it. And she told us she has sent it, everything, and we just, with the immigration, so it's a waiting game. So we're just waiting, and my son is struggling and all that. And I went on my knees like I just every morning I woke up and then I woke up like 4:30 and then I would be laying there thinking, am I staying in this country? Am I leaving? What's going on? Is my son gonna make it? Is he coming home? Am I gonna get to enjoy what other dads are doing, like playing with their kids? Am I gonna get to enjoy that? What's going on? And I remember this thought coming into my mind. Just make a promise to God. And then I just go on my knees. God, I know you brought me here like the way you brought Abraham from his parents. You made him like, you just took him from his family and everything and took him somewhere like to make him a great, like make him a great nation. You brought him here. You know why you brought me here. And I know you didn't leave Abraham. You were there for him, no matter how hard, even though when he needed a son, his wife needed a son. It took a little bit of time, but you still delivered. So I know I'm not perfect. I know I struggle. I need your guidance. I need your help to stay faithful. I need your help so I can be there for my child and my wife. But I will make you this promise. If you give me these two things, if you give me my green card, without going back to Chicago, going to immigration office again for interview, and if you bring my son home, I will tell the whole world. I will tell the whole world what God has done for me. So I said that. I was going about my life. I woke up. Sometimes I get up, I don't pray. I got to a point, my wife was like, I'm telling you, it got to a point that the more we pray, the more we were having issues. Mm. The more we pray, like we pray day and night, and the more the issues kept coming. Like we go to the hospital and they will mention our son is having this, and some doctors were like some doctors gave up on him. And they were like you get to open there, certain doctors we didn't even want them around our son. But you can't say that because they always change shift, and so but we didn't want, because the way they talk, how they do stuff was trying to tell you, yeah, they don't have hope for your son because the kid has been on ventilator for 6 months. And they slowly wean him off the ventilator. One doctor sat down with us. He was like, when a baby gets to their due date, which was December, his due date was December 28th. They gave them what's it called? Sorry, I forgot what they gave them. But there is a medicine they give to babies who have got to their due dates so that they can take them off steroid. They give them steroid to wean them slowly off the oxygen. Right. So they can go to the next one. So we were praying this will go successful, and one of those doctors that came on shift, and we were like, okay, this doctor said on this day they have to take him off the ventilator to go to the next step of the oxygen. And he was like, I don't know. With him, I don't know. And we were like, God, please let this doctor who had this plan come back. And the next day he was there. He was like, you know what? Why is this kid still on this? So he took him off, and things started getting good from there. So things started getting good, and we were waiting. We emailed the lawyer. Anything about immigration was like, well, with immigration, that's how it is. And then this craziness came, Corona. COVID-19 came. And we were praying for our child, like he's in the hospital. And there's Corona, and you can't go anywhere. And there's this craziness. And I was like, God, what's going on? I've prayed to you. I've made you a promise. Why is this taking so long? And with all this going on, like when I go to work, sometimes I listen to Boost Radio, you know, the radio station I'm talking, and maybe most of the people who watch this video know that. And I can't seem to keep this guy's name in my head, but he has this song. Like he said, he used to like he will go sit in his basement and cry, like why is God not doing what He asked him to do? And that's what literally I used to do. Like that's what I was doing. Like I would be crying. Maybe sometimes not the basement, bathroom, when like wherever I could get, like I will hear a worship song and it will gives me a goosebump and I'll start crying like God, why? And he's saying the song says, you know when it's best to say yes, and you know when it's not best to say no, because you are my father, and every father or every dad knows what his sons or his children need, not what you want. It's what you need. It's what your father will provide for you. So he knows what we need. It's not what we want. That's how God is. He will give you what he thinks you need, not what you want. So that song kept me going. Like with all this thing going on, Moses, Job, Abraham, and songs is where sometimes I will find my comfort. Like I will listen to those songs and I'll be okay. And then I'll pray. So, well, with this month, like early and by the ending of last month, things started going like, he might go home soon. He might go home soon. And guess what? We are blaming God for everything, but our house is not even ready for this kid to come. And I was just saying this, like, honestly, I would be like this. I'm not gonna lie because he's my witness. I said this to my wife. Our house is not ready. So even God knows we are not ready for him to come. But I tell you this, the day we'll be done with this house, the day he knows we are finished with this all nursery and all that, he's gonna come home. I just said that. I wasn't like I have believed God is gonna. I just said that. But we finished that, and the doctor wanted to talk to us. Was like, hey, your son has been here for long. This is what we have to do. He can come home or not. Like where his oxygen is now, he's fine. He can come home, and you guys can wean him little by little because right now he only got 2 trials to get off oxygen. So there's no need for him to stay at the hospital because the hospital is safe, but at the same time, it's not that safe because he might come home with other stuff too, like infection and all that. So I want this kid out. And we were like, okay. And my wife was like, with Corona Go, my wife, you know, she's on call, like how you guys do the same job, so you know how it is. So she goes to the hospital every morning, like before he come home, he has been going through the hospital. Like he will go there in the morning and come pick me up in the evening. So he will be like, he's coming home. And I'll be like, when? He said, he's coming home. It's getting close. And I was like, remember I told you when we're done with this nursery, he's going to come home? Well, I guess God is doing it. So the doctor was like, okay, hey, I need to meet with these guys and discuss final plan before we can decide if he's coming home or not. I met with a doctor on Saturday and he was like, okay, this is one thing that keeps baby in the NICU for 2 years, like years, feeding. And since he was on oxygen for so long, he didn't get to do that. So now he has to take like 150 milliliters, like every feeding time, which is like he eats every 4 hours. So, and they started and he was taking just 1 milliliter. And the doctor was like, yeah, it's gonna take like years before you guys can go home. So we can put a G tube in his stomach and he can just come home with that. And then you guys can bottle feed him from home and train him and start doing that, and whilst he get to the target we want babies to get to, the surgeon can just remove the G-tube and he can just get on with his life. And I was like, okay. So they were like, okay, this the surgery is gonna be, you guys. He was like, you guys should go home, talked about it. So we came home Saturday. I was like, well, I think, well, he can. It's a good thing. I think it's a sign of God saying he's ready to come home. So I think they should go for it. My wife was like, yeah, well, they should go for it. So she went back to the hospital on Monday, told them they should go for it. The doctor called the surgeon. When the surgeon doesn't do surgery on Friday, but the doctor was like, nope, you're doing it on Friday. So they do the surgery. This kid comes and he's fine. And the surgeon was like, I've never done a surgery on babies like this that doing well. Like he came, like the way of his oxygen condition, they thought he was going to go back on the ventilator. And that's not what God is thinking. He didn't. He woke up, they put him on where he was on the oxygen before they took him to the surgery. He was fine. So, and then they were like, the doctor was like, okay, my shift is, because the doctors were doing 2 weeks shift, and was like, this will be my last week of the shift. So this doctor is going to come on and she is going to be your discharge nurse, which I didn't know the day yet, like the dates he's supposed to come home. So then I had to put in time request to my boss, hey, I'm going to take off these days and that to go bring my son home. So I was like, okay, if they can discharge him on Thursday, I can take like 3 days or something off. And God is like, well, no, that's not what's going to happen. He's coming home on Wednesday. Like, I told my wife, and the doctor was like, nope, he's been here for long. He's coming home Wednesday. Thursday, it's not going to be possible. It's not going to work. He's coming home Wednesday.
Right.
I was like, what? So my wife told me that. And then she called me. She was like, guess what? And I was like, what? The lawyer called. And then she had this, like, she was quiet. I was like, what's going on? I was like, oh no. What's going on? What happened this time? So I was like, tell me, what's the lawyer? What's he saying? And then my co was like, Richard, why are you loud? And I was like, I told him, shh, talking to my wife. And they were like, okay. And then I was like, just tell me what the lawyer is saying. And she was like, your green card has been approved. And I was like, are you trying to say that so I don't get mad because of what? Are you trying to hide? He was like, no, your green card has been approved. I was like, Like I was in like on the phone, but then I hang up and then my head started like, I felt like my head is like this. I was like, whoa, my son is coming home. My green card has been approved. What's going on?
Without the interview?
No. And then instantly this thought popped into my head. Do you remember you asked God to do this for you? Well, it happened. God has done it. And I was like, whoa. I asked God and he has done it. So then I was like, okay, how am I going to tell the world with this craziness going on? How am I going to tell the world? And then I was like, maybe I should call Boost. I should call WBGL. I don't know what I was so confused. And like maybe somebody would say this is coincidence or something, but all of a sudden he decided to do a man up. Like God just put it on your, like on your heart, hey, you gotta get back to man up. Because he's preparing you so I can use this platform to tell people what he has done. Because he knew, like, I was struggling, like, where am I going to go tell this story? Because places are closed. What am I going to do?
Right.
But here you are, living a couple of blocks away and doing, like, the world is internet. If you want to get something, like, everything you do on the internet is going to go to the world.
Right.
And God just put you right there, and then like you all of a sudden, hey man, is it okay if I put your story out there? And I was thinking about to tell you, hey, can I use your platform to tell my testimony? And if this is not God, then I don't know.
I know, right? Like, okay, first of all, can we just like stop and talk about the fact that like it happened the same week?
Oh yeah,
Like it was just
say that like the same.
For God to be like, yeah, I could do that. It would probably look more like me if I just did it within a couple of days of each other. And yeah, like we'll leave the interview out. Like that's doable. I could do that too. Like I mean, it was just nuts. If that's not God just showing off and saying like I got you and it's time to celebrate and nobody gets credit for this but me. Like God was just so awesome. And man, like I didn't believe it when you told me at first. I was like, there's no way. What's the catch? Right?
Yeah,
Again, back to the that's too easy, it's too good, it's too fast. Like, I mean, I believe in God, but what's the catch? Like what's coming?
yeah, I even like, even though I was excited and all that, I was like, until I get this green card, until I see this kid getting out of the door, I still see that's the human. If you feeling that, it's not a problem. You're a human being. You like, no matter what, like sometimes things like this happen and you still doubt.
Yeah. And I still love just the fact that like, you know, as he just talked about, I had just kind of kickstarted this ministry, did it for years and years, more as like a church-based thing. And all of a sudden, like I had a year off, I had a whole year myself. There's a testimony video, as many of you already know. And God just like, boom, it's time to get back to work. It's time and we're going to change it. And this is going to be an online ministry, multi-platform, blah, blah, blah. And so it was just so funny that like, I hear your story and God's just like, you know, you should probably like mention that. And so I was just being polite. Like I just sent you a text message. Hey, would it be cool if I, you know, brought it up in a video at some point? I think your testimony is awesome. And for you to, for you to be like, well, so here's the thing. And I'm just looking at how God orchestrated. And he's like, I kept my end of the bargain and I've already got people on the way for you to keep up your end of the bargain. Yeah. No backing out now. They're already,
there's no excuses.
Yeah. Man, like, thank you so much for sharing your story. Your testimony is just, I mean, it's awesome. I hate what all you had to go through in the last year. I mean, talk about a roller coaster ride, talk about a trial of circumstance and everything. But man, like to let God work through you in such a powerful way. I know this testimony is going to give people chills and goosebumps and blow their minds, but there's also a whole bunch of people who I really, truly believe who are going to hear your testimony and they need to hear it because they're going through the same thing and they need that hope. They need the light in the darkness. They need all of it. They need to know about Jesus. They need to know about God and how good he is and how reliable he is. And that's what your story's about, is God using your life to make a point, and a good one at that.
Yeah, and I wanna say this. Like anybody who has been a NICU parent, hey, I'm from Africa. Like babies are delivered in homes. I was born in the house, like literally some lady's house. Like she's what's it called? Some kind of a maternity, but it's at that time when I was born, there was no advanced anything.
Yeah, we call them midwives, yeah.
But just like come here and see all this and go into that, and the doctors and nurses telling you it's gonna be a roller coaster ride, and seeing your kid getting closer to death, like he and I don't know, like it's really hard. Like the story that we are telling, it seems like some people may think, oh, it's something that happens and all that. But if you believe in God, And whether you believe in God or you don't, I hope this testimony helps you in a way to find your way back to God, because going through all this in the NICU, seeing people coming in, like people, some babies will born in 2 weeks and they will come in and leave. Some babies will born, they will spend months and leave, and your son is still at one stage, not moving. And you don't know when you're gonna leave. It's really hard. But if it weren't for God, it's not by doctor's power. I don't care what people say, science, whatever. I don't care what they say. It's by God's power. It's by his might that this kid got to come home. So I hope this testimony will help somebody who's going through the same thing. No matter what you're going through, please keep praying, because praying is the only way we can communicate with God. Keep faith, praying, and it's not gonna be easy. It's not gonna be like, hey, I pray to God and he's gonna do it. It's gonna take time, but he will do it for you.
Yeah. Before I ask this one final question, I wanted to share a verse that God kind of put in my heart preparing for this interview. And it kind of like, I felt like I had something in mind. And so when it got narrowed down to this, I just have to laugh about it, because we didn't plan this. We didn't organize it. You didn't say it because of my verse, and I didn't pick a verse because of what you said. This is just God, again, orchestrating events. But my verse that I wanted to share is Mark 11:24. And it says, therefore, I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. And obviously there's kind of a caveat that comes with any scripture like that, because God doesn't just like grant wishes. He's not a vending machine for miracles. But I just love the fact that this basically is suggesting that if you are in right relationship with God, if your faith is in him, if you're within his will, and you want what he wants in your life, God is literally saying, whatever you ask in prayer, if you believe that I can do it, you will receive it and it will be yours. And tell me that ain't your story, you know? Like, to walk through all of that and in raw faith, go to God in prayer and say, this is what I want. This is what I need. I need you to bring my baby home. I'm ready to be dad at home. I'm done with this. I'm ready for you to bring my baby home, and I need you to take care of this immigration business. I don't need any lawyers involved anymore. I don't need to go to Chicago. I don't want another interview. Like, God, I need you to take care of this for me. And I swear to you, it's just like God heard your prayer and said, I got you. You asked it. I'm that good. Here it comes.
Yep.
Man, oh man. Okay, my last question for you tonight. What has this testimony going through this storm and seeing God give you such a powerful victory, what has this meant for you as just a man and a man of God? And what has this meant for your family, especially your relationship with your wife?
So with all this, I would say this has made me and my wife believe that no matter what, don't ever doubt him, because he created you. He knew your future before you were even in your mother's womb. He knew what you were going to do. He brought me here. Like, I asked him, I didn't say, God, I want to come to the United States. I said, God, I want somebody to marry. And he was like, this is where I want you to be. Like the way he took Abraham. It was like, I'm going to take you out of your parents and your whatever family's house, and I'm going to take you somewhere, make you a great nation. I don't know if God is going to make me a great nation. That one I can't tell you. But I know he has a plan for me. And he didn't bring me here to say, hey, he brought me here to use me for this moment, to tell the world. I know there's more to come, but so far what I've gathered, and maybe I'm wrong, but to my knowledge and to all the things I've got, I think that's what God is trying to do. Like he brought me here to use me to tell people we should rely on him instead of thinking we can do our own thing. We should believe in him. And that's what this testimony has taught me and my family. And I'm gonna be like, it's not gonna be like, even he has done this, the trials is not over. It's gonna come. But then this is where you have to be like, if he did this for you, what else can't he do? Like he can do everything. Right. So far as you believe in him, so far as you rely on him. Like there's this rapper called KB saying he believes, and I agree with him. Maybe somebody might not, but in my opinion, I agree with him. He said he believes prayer is the way of asking God to help us. But if you stop praying to God, you're trying to tell God, you got this, you can do it on your own. And I feel like, yeah, it's true, because if you stop talking to God, praying to God, hey, like, because that's the only communication you have with God, praying, because that's when you got to tell him something. That's when you got to thank him for something. That's when you got to do whatever you want to do with God. But if you're not doing that, then it means you be like, hey, I'm my own boss. God, I can do my own thing. So this testimony has taught me and my family and my, like, everything. We gotta rely on God. We gotta put our 100% in him, no matter what you're going through, no matter how hard it is. Even if you fall, you gotta come back up and continue to believe in him, and he will see you through.
Awesome, man. Thank you again. Huge thanks to you, Richard, for sharing your testimony. I honestly, like, even though you're my friend, I feel honored to be the one to kind of facilitate this interview and to just get this out to the world. I know that people need to hear it, and I'm excited for where this is going to go. I want the last word to be yours. So anything you want to close with before we shut her down tonight?
Yeah, I know I've been through this conversation. I keep saying rely on God and all that. I'm still gonna say this. I know there's somebody out there who is going through worse than what I went through. It's nothing compared to whatever the person is going through. Whether you're Christian, whatever thing you're doing, just remember, he's the one that created us. He's the one that created this, everything, the air we breathe, everything. If he did all that, he knows what you're gonna think tomorrow. He knows what you're gonna think in a second from now. And imagine how I was struggling because he did his part. He delivered whatever I asked him. And it's not like he was like, hey, you said this, bam, right? You got it. It took time because he knew when I'm gonna need that. He didn't just give it to me right when I said. He knows when I will really need that. And he delivered in the perfect time and in his time. So whatever you're going through, if you just be patient, I know it's hard. And I tell you, patience is not my strong suit. I've learned to be, even though I struggle a little bit with it. But I've learned to be, because with God, you gotta be patient, because that's how he do his things. And if you continue to pray, and with everything going on, don't try to do this alone, because if I hadn't had you, I hadn't had the new friends I made, I don't know where I would be, because this was hard. The encouragement, the prayers, all that. I wasn't praying on my own. The prayers that I got from my country, from my parents, from my mentors, from you guys, those prayers all get us. Those prayers are the things that get us through. It wasn't just my prayer. Everybody was praying for us. Everybody that we knew was praying for us. So if you're going through this, you can't do it alone. You gotta rely on God, and you gotta find people who are gonna be your prayer warriors, people who are gonna be there for you and pray for you. People are gonna tell you, oh, God got this. yeah, at that moment, like you said a while back, you just want to spank them. Yeah, it's true. That's how you feel. You want to just spank somebody for telling you God is good. God is gonna do this. But yeah, it's true. He's good and he's gonna do it. So please, anybody out there, especially with the corona going on, whoever is going through what, please rely on God, believe in him, and he's gonna surely deliver you from whatever you're going through.
Perfect. Y'all heard him. Let's end with that. God, I just thank you for what you did through Richard and Sherry's life, and for the, I'm going to say it now, the awesome, amazing plans that you have for Hezekiah that we can't even fathom right now. And Lord God, I just thank you for what you're going to do with this testimony. And for those of you listening, thank you for taking the time to hear him out. And I know that it'll make an impact in your life. Thanks again, Richard.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Hey, thanks for taking some time out of your busy day to give our channel a listen. Hopefully you liked the video. If you did, be sure and smash this button right here so that you can get access to all the latest content by subscribing to our channel, Man Up Ministry Online. And while you're at it, go ahead and hit this button right here and check out another video before you take off.